In recent days, the situation along the Vietnam-Cambodia border has become exceptionally tense and complex. The armed conflict between Thailand and Cambodia has not only shaken regional security dynamics, but has also ignited an unprecedented wave of mass migration. From across the border, thousands of Vietnamese citizens have been fleeing in panic from active conflict zones, placing extraordinary pressure on the entire southwestern border of Vietnam. Major international border crossings such as Muk Bai, Ha Tien, Tinh Bien, and Hoa Le have continuously recorded inflows far beyond their normal handling capacity, pushing reception, management, and security operations into a state of severe overload. On the Cambodian side, authorities are urgently escorting and handing over groups of Vietnamese citizens back to Vietnam. According to rapid reports from Vietnamese law enforcement, the majority of these individuals had previously worked in casino complexes and semi-autonomous economic zones, areas that have recently been subjected to intense Thai military strikes. In response to the emergency, the Vietnam Border Guard Command immediately activated red alert status along the entire frontier. Units were ordered to deploy 100% of their personnel on active duty, coordinating closely with police forces and local medical teams to swiftly establish temporary reception stations directly at border gates. Alongside humanitarian assistance, screening and classification procedures were tightened to promptly detect and prevent dangerous criminal elements from exploiting the chaos to infiltrate deep into Vietnamese territory. However, this influx of people into Vietnam is far more than the aftermath of a conventional wartime refugee crisis. Behind it lies the direct result of a calculated geopolitical maneuver. Thailand's decision to leverage armed conflict as a means to dismantle long-standing fraud sanctuaries, pushing entire transnational criminal networks into a dead end and forcing their chaotic flight toward Vietnam. To understand the scale of this unprecedented exodus, one must look directly at the reality unfolding along the Thailand-Cambodia border. What began as isolated skirmishes between border forces quickly escalated beyond control, evolving into large-scale artillery bombardments and airstrikes. Yet what has most drawn the attention of military observers is not the intensity of the firepower, but Thailand's deliberate choice of targets. Rather than focusing on Cambodian military bases or logistical depots, the Royal Thai Air Force concentrated precision bombs on areas long considered outside the gray zone: autonomous economic enclaves, casino complexes operating under various guises, and isolated high-rise buildings lining the border at Poi Phet, Osmach, and even extending to coastal zones such as Sihanoukville. This was no coincidence. For years, these locations had been a persistent thorn in Bangkok's side. Often described as digital fortresses, they served as safe havens for transnational scam crime syndicates, protected by shadowy interests, operating in closed systems, and largely beyond the reach of law enforcement. From these enclaves, millions of scam calls were launched each year directly targeting Thai citizens and causing losses amounting to billions of US dollars with severe social consequences. Bangkok had repeatedly pursued diplomatic channels, pressuring Cambodia to dismantle these criminal hubs, but all such efforts ended in stalemate. When war broke out, Thailand saw a rare window of opportunity. By alleging that these zones were being exploited as bases for foreign mercenaries, secret weapons depots, or cyber intelligence stations, posing direct threats to national security, Bangkok gradually legitimized military strikes against them. In the skies, formations of F-16 fighter jets roared overhead, releasing precision-guided bombs that flattened buildings 15 to 20 stories high. Structures once symbolic of vast scam empires shook violently before collapsing into seas of fire. Server systems were obliterated, power and telecommunications lines severed, and the long-standing aura of invincibility surrounding these criminal networks was crushed within the vortex of war. In this way, Thailand transformed a border conflict into a large-scale criminal purge, something that years of diplomacy and peacetime legal measures had failed to achieve. As bombs fell, the line between soldiers, criminals, and victims blurred, plunging the region into extreme chaos. The once forbidden zones were reduced to fields of shattered concrete. Security and control systems disintegrated. Crime bosses, the architects of scam networks, were the first to sense impending doom. They grabbed what they could, abandoned thousands of subordinates, and fled in desperation toward Phnom Penh or onward to third countries, leaving behind devastation and a rapidly expanding humanitarian crisis. With guards gone and electric batons silenced, the disguised prisons that had confined tens of thousands of people collapsed overnight. Liberation came not with keys, but with bombs and terror. Scenes resembling a ruptured beehive unfolded as streams of people poured from ruined high-rises like ants from a shattered nest. Estimates reach into the hundreds of thousands, spanning numerous nationalities: Chinese, Thai, Malaysian, Indonesian, with Vietnamese citizens forming the largest group. They fled in despair, from aerial bombardment, from armed groups, and from hunger and death stalking every step. To the west lay Thailand, where firepower continued unabated. The way back was cut off. The only remaining path was eastward toward Vietnam, now perceived as the final fragile ray of hope. Exhausted masses flooded highways, scattered into forests, and crossed treacherous trails, triggering an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. Within this chaotic flow lay a dangerous mix of victims and perpetrators. Some were truly pitiful, lured abroad by promises of easy jobs with high pay, then exploited to the brink of collapse. Yet others were former operators of scam machinery, brutal enforcers, or wanted fugitives now cloaking themselves as war refugees in an attempt to escape justice. As this human torrent surged toward Vietnam's borders, the burden on border forces of both countries intensified. Most fleeing groups were intercepted by Cambodian authorities, assembled at transit points, and transported in convoys to hand over to Vietnam at international crossings. Reception operations unfolded continuously at nearly all key border gates, with the heaviest strain felt at Ha Tien International Border Gate, Kien Giang Province. Due to its proximity to coastal economic zones such as Sihanoukville and Kampot, areas heavily affected by fighting, Ha Tien became the epicenter of pressure. Border guards there recorded a historic figure: 226 Vietnamese citizens received in one handover. Young people stepped off trucks with vacant stares. Many were barefoot, dressed in torn clothing and lacking identification, confiscated or lost during their escape. They recounted harrowing moments of falling bombs, violently shaking buildings, and frantic stampedes in the struggle to survive. Earlier, Hoa Lu Border Gate, Dong Nai Province, had received 67 citizens, followed by another 85 transferred from Koh Kong. These individuals hailed from 22 provinces nationwide, from northern mountainous regions like Lao Cai and Shon La to the southern tip of Ca Mau. Their sole commonality was falling into the easy job, high pay trap and becoming stranded at the heart of war. At Tinh Bien International Border Gate in An Giang Province, authorities received 48 Vietnamese citizens from diverse backgrounds: Bac Ninh, Hung Yen, Lang Son, and Ho Chi Minh City. They reported being moved through multiple crossings and shell companies before war swept everything away, forcing them toward Vietnam's border. At Moc Bai Border Gate in Tay Ninh, the largest gateway on the southwestern frontier, authorities face unprecedented pressure. While handling massive inflows of returnees, they must also enforce the highest level of security screening. In one handover of 45 citizens, forces worked through the night to classify each case. Most were young, emaciated, and utterly exhausted. Yet beneath their frail appearances lay hidden risks that left no room for complacency. The most dangerous individuals were those who avoided official crossings altogether, crime bosses, senior managers of scam organizations, or fugitives wanted in Vietnam. Knowing their criminal pasts would be exposed at legal checkpoints, they chose a riskier route, trekking through forests, crossing streams, and illegally entering via trails and gaps, hoping to vanish amid refugee flows. But along Tay Ning's border, Vietnamese border guards had already cast a wide net. In Tan Dong Commune, reconnaissance teams ambushed and arrested 13 men sneaking through forested terrain at night. Unlike genuine victims, this group carried large sums of cash, foreign currency, and electronic devices containing sensitive data, clear indicators of organized criminal activity. At Moc Bai itself, rigorous screening enabled authorities to identify and isolate 6 high-risk individuals among the 45 handed over. All had serious criminal records related to fraud, robbery, and narcotics, deliberately blending into the returning crowd to evade justice. Looking back, it is difficult to deny the cold calculation and cruelty behind Thailand's strategy, escalating military conflict while deliberately directing firepower towards sensitive targets. In doing so, Bangkok solved a problem that had plagued not only Thailand, but the entire Southeast Asian region for over a decade. The border war effectively became a massive incinerator, burning down the infrastructure of high-tech crime networks. As skyscrapers collapsed, servers were destroyed, and crime lords fled, transnational scam operations suffered a devastating blow. This approach, while triggering a humanitarian crisis and placing immense short-term pressure on neighboring countries like Vietnam, has, in the long run, eradicated malignant tumors that peacetime law enforcement could not fully remove. For thousands of Vietnamese youths returning from the war zone, this is a lesson paid for in blood and tears. The dream of easy money has collapsed in the most brutal way possible. Amid bombs and the ruin of criminal strongholds, Vietnam's border gates remain open to welcome lost compatriots home, but they also stand as an uncompromising final barrier for criminals. It is hoped that after escaping both the hell of scams and the hell of war, these individuals will truly awaken, shed their dark pasts, and rebuild their lives through honest labor on their homeland. This mass migration will be remembered as a painful historical milestone, a stark warning of the horrific price paid for illusions of illicit wealth. Thank you for watching this story. If you found it meaningful, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video. And now it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for staying with Societal Stories.